life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey, DIY ass kickers, welcome back to the Roadshow. My guest today is Reverend Stephanie Redfeather. Stephanie has been on the Roadshow before, and I'm so happy to have her back. Reverend Dr. Stephanie Redfeather is a divine feminine change agent and champion of empaths, an award-winning international best-selling author of The Evolutionary Empath. Her passion is to help fellow sensitive souls break out of energetic jail and fully embrace their soul's evolution as co-creators of New Earth consciousness. As a shamanic minister and prolific creator of spiritual tools, Stephanie founded Blue Star Temple, an online resource for spiritual seekers to learn energetic skills, hone empathetic abilities, access spiritual knowledge, and connect with cosmic consciousness. Stephanie holds a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a master's and doctorate in shamanic studies. Stephanie is a contributing author to the #1 bestsellers, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change, and The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 2. You'll find how to connect with Stephanie in our show notes. So welcome back to the Roadshow, Stephanie. I'm sorry for this technical blip, but I'm very happy that we're back and we can hear each other and everybody can hear us too.
Yes, me too, Diana. Thank you.
So we had started to talk about 2020. You were here in 2020. I'll get that right this time. And how busy you've been. And one of the beautiful things that you have created, of course, are these gorgeous empath activation cards. So please tell us a little bit about that and why did you create them?
Yeah. So for me, I always have, I've got half a dozen books in my head right now, at any given time. And so it's just what energies are calling me forward? What are my spirit guides leading me towards? And so after the Evolutionary Empath, one of the things I talk about in there that I think is unique and sets the book apart is that I believe empaths are here because we have a cosmic mission to help humanity evolve to the next level of consciousness. That we're not here as an anomaly, right? Or a goof. I mean, we might feel like we're a few hundred or a few thousand years too early, right? But that's what it feels like to be a front runner or a way shower, is we're the ones busting through the wall and creating the path for the ones coming behind us. And so the subtitle of the empath activation cards is Discover Your Cosmic Purpose. And so just working with these cosmic energies, these higher frequencies, has been a big part of my personal spiritual practice and the work that I help other people do. And so it just felt like a natural flow from the book to this, because, honestly, we're all ascending. Whether you want to or not. So it's kind of your choice if you want to get drunk, kicking and screaming, or if you want to engage the energies consciously and work with them so that it's not such a painful process, because we can get our butts kicked sometimes by the potency of the energies.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm really glad that that's where this came from, because and I call myself a spiritual newbie, and can have my butt kicked at times throughout the last couple of years, absolutely. But there is something, there's something very big happening, and I agree, even from my limited knowledge, I certainly, and experience, I certainly agree that that we are in this together. And I think the best part for me is thinking about, where we will land and the kind of people we will be as we go through this. I think it's I just think it's exciting and it's a huge opening for
Mm-hmm.
humans. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
my take. Let's get back to your empath cards. I love them, by the way. I love them. I have to show some of the beautiful artwork, and I won't. I'll try hard not to drop them and get them in the camera. Yeah, they are just gorgeous. And Stephanie did all this art herself. Yeah. Oh, I think that one's the back one. Yeah, just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So, what makes these cards so special?
Yeah. So I love Oracle decks. I have probably 25 or 30 of them myself. I use them all the time, so the idea of creating an Oracle deck, was exciting, but I wanted to make them unique. I wanted to add an additional use, an additional layer of meaning. Like I didn't know exactly what that was going to be when I got started, but my spirit guides, worked with me along the way. And what this ended up being is you can actually take this guidebook and read through it from start to finish and use it as a self-guided initiation into the mysteries of higher consciousness.
Hmm.
And so it's not, I mean, you can just use them like an oracle deck, and that's fine. But this additional overlay really gives a potency, right? Like when you pick up this deck and these cards and you look at the images and you feel it, it's like you just feel there is something else to these cards. And what's so cool about the way spirit works with my process, it's very intuitive. So I didn't know when I sat down to begin exactly how this was going to play out. And it wasn't until I was mostly done creating the art and the messages that they all started to organize themselves into these 4 paths. And so if you actually look in the book, it breaks them down into the it's initiatory path 1, initiatory path 2. So it's 44 cards. So each path has 11 cards. And they, like the first initiatory path 1 is more just rubber meets the road, 3D human stuff. But as you start moving through the paths, you can tell that the frequency raises, that the perspective broadens, it becomes more multi-dimensional, higher frequency, broader perspective as you move through these paths. And so there's some just amazing energy with these cards. And in addition, like pretty much most Oracle deck, you've got examples of layouts, right? Different ways to use the cards. And another piece that channeled that came through me was this 10 card layout that a person could use as kind of a mini launch sequence where it's 10 specific steps that each have there's a name to each particular step. Mm-hmm. And then they can draw a card for each one of those 10 steps and kind of use it as a mini initiatory sequence for themselves. So there's so many different ways you can use this deck.
Wow. Yeah, wow. There, when I first opened up the box and I saw the book, yeah, it felt I could feel the energy of coming off them for sure. And the book, I think, is, I mean, it's like a gift all by itself, as you say. You can work through it and yeah, it can be something standalone for sure. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So you were delayed in doing this some way. Can you tell me about that?
I tend to be, if anybody watched Top Gun, going Mach 3 with my hair on fire. And so, it's like I tend to think I'm ready for something when I'm really not. I'm like, all right, let's go. It's time to do the deck. And Spirit's like, no, it's not time. Like, yes, it is. I'm ready. No, there's some other things you need to figure out. No, it's time to go. And so, one of those things that I had to sort out, my first time doing an Oracle deck, I did not originally think I was going to do the artwork. So it's like, do I find the artist? Does the publisher find the artist?
Mm-hmm.
Do I pay the artist? Does the publisher pay the artist? How do the royalties work?
So many questions.
It's a lot to sort out.
Yeah.
And I had a reading with my medium, and she said, well, Steph, you're supposed to do the artwork. And I was like,
Oh,
Oh,
oh.
exactly. Because I am an artist, but I don't lead with that. And so that just opened the portal. It gave me permission. I very quickly after that got the download of the kind of the unifying theme of all of the cards. And so if you notice, if you were to lay them all out, you would notice that every single card has either dots and or circles. And that is what came to me, that they wanted to act as the transmission vehicles, right? The code activators, so that whoever works with these cards will receive kind of their own personalized prescription, if you will, like whatever message spirit has for them, or validation, or aha, or connecting the dots, or just activation, energetic activation, that it comes through the images and those overlays.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finally, all the pieces dropped in, I actually created the entire deck in 3.5 months.
That's unbelievable. That's a lot of work.
It is, yeah. And it was 3.5 months of just being in this bubble. And every day I would just get up and it's like, okay, where are the energies? Am I painting today or am I writing today? And, bless my husband, I took over one of the kitchen counters and that became my art studio. So he was tolerant of that while I was getting this created.
Well, it's not like you live alone. I mean, people have to kind of go with the flow, right? Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a very, very short time. A very, very short time. So you would have worked very hard, no doubt, no doubt, and a beautiful result for sure. So tell me just a little bit because I'm not sure that all our listeners are going to understand the whole activation piece, the code piece that you're referring to. So can you explain a little bit about that for people that won't
Absolutely.
understand?
Yeah, so don't get caught up in the languaging. What it really means is any experience that you have that gives you an aha moment, right? So if you've used an oracle deck before, we've all pulled a card and we're like, oh, that is exactly the message, or it inspired something, or we read, it could be you read a passage in a book and it just made something click for you, or created an inspiration that took you down a path that maybe you weren't going to go. So that's the kind of experience that I'm talking about. I think of it in terms of, looking, that encoded within each of these is that sort of dormant message or energy, so that when you pull that card, right, and you look at the image and it's like, here
Mm.
comes the validation, here comes the inspiration, here comes the message that's precisely what I needed.
Right, because we will
Again,
we will perceive it as it belongs to us.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so the energetic codes, I mean, I think we've probably all read a book or seen a work of art, or maybe been to a sacred site where you just feel activated, right? There's something about it that just, it lifts you up, or it sends a buzz through you, or it transforms you, just because of the energy of it. And so, this may sound kind of crazy, and maybe it's just an author mommy thing, like these are my babies and they're alive. But this deck is sentient. It has consciousness. It has a life of its own. And I'm not kidding. Like these are imbued with just the most amazing, beautiful frequencies. And I have to share, I mean, one of the things that just made me speechless, the design was a co-creation with me and the publisher, right? So I send them the artwork, but like when you were holding them up and you noticed that for each piece of artwork, like the color that's around the edge is different for each one. They picked all that, and I thought that was awesome. I gave them the suggestion of several different pieces of art that might be good for the back cover. And so they went with one of the things I suggested. You know, they designed the cover of the book, they designed the box. And so when I got it, you know, I knew what the cover looked like, but I hadn't opened it. I didn't know when you open up this deck, that mandala, that is one of the pieces of art I created, but they basically decolorized it and just made it solid white. It is on the spine.
Wow.
It is on the back of the book. And when I open this, I'm like, holy crap, that's a portal.
Yes.
There's a portal in my deck. You know? So I mean, I could not have conceived of that. I could not have said, hey, put this image on there and we'll make a portal. Like the way that just played out, I'm like, okay, Spirit, you are in the driving seat. This is amazing.
No kidding. No kidding. We're just taking you along.
Right. Thanks for being our voice in our hands. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Happy to serve.
No kidding. And what an amazing publisher to, you know, to do that, to take it to that level. It's yeah, it's amazing. You're right. It is a portal. Absolutely. Wow. Wow. So, I don't know whether you're up for this, but I want to try some of this.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you like to do?
Well, I don't know. I'm just gonna. I want to be your guinea pig. I want you to. Just yeah.
Do you want me to pull a card for you? Do you want me to pull a card with the intention of it being meaningful for everybody who's listening and watching?
I like that. Meaningful for whoever is listening and watching. Not that I'm not interested in the other piece too, but
of course.
Let's make this broader for the listeners.
Okay. Let me just tune into that. Let me pick a card. All right. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is amazing because in the first take when we were having the technical difficulties and I was just flipping through the book and picking a card that came up, it was this one.
Oh, well, that was clearly the one you were supposed to find.
Clearly, that's the one I was supposed to talk about. So this is At-Man Vision. It's number 24. And so the messages are somewhat lengthy, so I don't want to read the whole thing because that might just get a little boring. But what I will do is I'll read a little bit of it and just kind of use my intuition as to what parts are most applicable. So the situation, concern, or decision you are dealing with right now requires perspective from a higher level viewpoint to see the big picture and to separate yourself from attachment and fear. Rise above the current condition to see the greater perspective and how these events are supporting your evolution. The choice you make is key because it not only influences your future timeline, but also the timelines of those who are affected by your decision. This is not meant to add pressure, but to remind you that at a soul level, you and the other people involved set up this precise collusion of events in order to heal past karmic patterns. It is time to call upon your Atman vision. Atman is a Sanskrit word that means inner self, spirit, or soul. In Hindu philosophy, Atman is the first principle, the true self of an individual, beyond its identification with any natural phenomena. It represents the essence of a person, the eternal self. Take the pressure off of yourself, beloved. You can do this, and you have help. Connect with this omniscient aspect who is impartial, benevolent, loving, generous, wise, and infinitely supportive. From this elevated viewpoint and relieved of the grip of anxiety and the pull of past patterns, you will see clearly the divine machinations that are in motion. And so one of the, and one of the things, I won't go into the whole detail here so we can get right into it, but remind me if you're interested and we can talk about the invocations and how they came into being.
Mhm.
But for each message, I wanted to create some kind of ceremony or additional activity or something to embody.
Mhm.
And so this, the additional activity for Atman Vision is an invocation that I wrote. That's basically a poem, but it's meant to be a declarative statement. And so I'd like to read that.
Please, yeah.
I summon my eternal self, transcending human ego self. Omniscient vision open to me. All paths and choice I ask to see. Separate me from my fear, so the way ahead I can see clear. A weighty choice now lies before me. Courage, trust, and faith are key. Souls are locked in vicious cycles. Free us from our epic battles. Show me how to mend with grace so I can claim my sovereign space. Illuminate what's mine to do and leave the rest in trust with you. I now feel clarity, confidence, surety. I stand strong in my own authority. Eternal grace is now descending. Karmic patterns are finally ending. My soul and spirit, I won't forsake. I'm done with lifetimes of heartbreak. Through vision pure, I am awake. I know what decision I must make. And I'm telling you, these are so powerful, and it doesn't matter that I wrote them. The energy of them is just so incredibly potent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to dive into them.
Mm.
Yeah. Very, very powerful. You know, I want to encourage people to go and get this deck. When it's out, go and get this deck. I mean that I you know, it's one thing to talk about something that may help. You know, I mean, we're full of that in the world, you know, buy this because it's going to help you, buy that, it's going to help you. It's things like this, I think, that are so personal and so connected to our inner selves that these aren't the things to pass up, I don't think. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So, one of the things that you had mentioned was about beginning a mystery school. Tell me a little bit about that. That's exciting.
Yes, yes. So I knew some time ago that not long after the deck launch that I wanted to have some kind of program where people could have the deck and we would use the deck as the basis for this mystery school. And so I don't have an exact date for you. It is currently the beginning of February. And I think that's where it's going to stay, but it's changed because originally my deck was supposed to launch November 9th, but due to industry-wide shipping delays, it got pushed to November 23rd. But I also needed to wait for the overseas on sale dates, which tend to be about a month after the US. So I wanted to make sure that all of the markets had the deck before I launched the mystery school. And so the intention here is let me just gather my thoughts for because there's a lot that I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being on this path of ascension as a human on Earth right now is challenging to say the least, and the energies can be really intense. And so this mystery school is multifold. So one, there's a process that we're going to go through. And so I had mentioned the 10 card spread that's in the book. We're going to use that as a foundation for the mystery school. And so let me just, I said that each level, if you will, has a name. So the 10 weeks or 10 levels are commencement, discernment, alignment, refinement, embodiment, empowerment, anointment, ennoblement, ordainment, and enlightenment. And so I will be inviting everybody to pull their own cards, right? So it's a personal experience where you're going to be going through those, we're all going to be going through those 10 stages at the same time, but the card that applies for you in that stage is going to be different for each person. And so it's going to be very personalized as to what you need to help raise your frequency to build your muscle, if you will, for holding these higher frequencies. But there's going to be a practical aspect as well, because it's not just about sitting around and doing ascension practices until we all leave our body and then goodbye. Like there's a reason we chose to be in a human body on this planet right now. And so there's also going to be teachings around very practical tools for how to learn to hold these higher frequencies, and some key paradigm shifts, if you will, or mindsets, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I had these peak experiences and it's just so blissful, or I had this meditation and I actually just felt myself as one with the cosmos, and then 2 hours later I was yelling at my kids, and it's like
Reality.
right, reality, exactly. There must be something wrong because I can't just hold this frequency, or I can't stay. And there's nothing wrong with you. And that's part of what the teachings will be in this mystery school, is to understand this cyclic nature, and how to work with the ascension mysteries consciously and deliberately.
Wow. And you know what? I think that is so, it's so important. You're right. Life is not just one straight line or street. We're all over the place at times. And even, even our understanding, and as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking again how, how much learning that I am doing about my own spirituality and that path to ascension. And so having that kind of concrete base to it, I think is really important, so that people know that wherever they are is where they are, and that's okay. And yeah,
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
still they can still grow.
right, and to have a groundedness
Mm-hmm.
to it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I love them a lot. Seriously, I can't wait to jump in. So is there anything else that you want to share about these or your book? I'd love to hear
Oh
it.
my goodness. Um, well, they for the Canadian audience, I believe the on sale date is the same as the US. And so I don't think you're going to have the months delay that, like, the UK or Australia would. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the deck and the book are a great pairing, because they're very complementary, right? So they don't cover the same ground, but they're, the Evolutionary Empath book is much more about giving you tools and understanding and perspective of what it is to be an empath. And then the cards are kind of these interactive, messages and activations and energetic frequencies and practices to
Mm-hmm.
engage. So yeah, I mean, if you are interested in staying up on what I've got going on, or programs coming up, or new products, I just invite you to go to my website, bluestartemple.org. And I have on the home page, I have this beautiful free gift. So if you join my mailing list, you'll get, it's called 11 self-care must-haves for empaths, light workers, star seeds, and way showers.
Mm.
And so if you're on my mailing list, that's the best way to just stay in touch with everything that I've got going on. I do work in a limited basis with clients one-on-one. And, so I'm always developing programs and products, and always something going on.
Yeah. Well, like we said in the beginning, you've been busy and you will continue to be busy. Creative. Yeah. So there is something that just kind of twigged for me, when you're talking about empaths and light workers and et cetera, et cetera. So I have found and this is just my experience. I have found that people connect to the term empath and can relate to that in a different way than they can some of the other gifts, I'll say. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about that, like how, what is the connection for, and again, I'm thinking about people who who are not in this community yet. So if they do consider themselves an empath, how, what's the connection? How can they kind of understand um, what else is here for them,
Mhm.
aside from what you've already said, obviously, but for that particular population.
You said what's available to them in the deck, you mean, or just broader
Well,
perspective?
if they were considering themselves an empath and only an empath, maybe that's all they've ever understood or know
Mhm.
about themselves. Why would they come looking for more?
Mm.
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it just, I'm not here to convince a person of a thing, right?
Of course. Yeah.
I think of it as I'm proposing it, and if it resonates with you, then you
Yes.
can grab and go from there. And so I think it really just hinges around what I shared earlier is that the main premise, the kind of the overarching biggest picture vision is that empaths are here to help humanity ascend to the next level of consciousness, that we come into our bodies with a refined energetic physiology, right? And with these heightened sensitivities and with a lot of times a slightly different value system. We are here as the front runners. We
Mm-hmm.
are, I like to think that some hundreds or thousand years from now, empath isn't even going to be a thing. It's just going to be synonymous with human. That this is
Mm.
where we're all headed. And so, when an empath, a sensitive soul, feels, maybe there's a calling from their soul, their higher self, their heart, something that tunes them into the fact that, this is bigger than just me, and I'm not alone, that we're all here for a collective mission. I think that automatically opens the door to these bigger sort of cosmic themes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great explanation. Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm not sure. I think that there's just a large population still who wouldn't think about that or wonder, well, no, that's not me. I'm just sensitive, or I'm
Yeah.
just
And
empathic.
and for a lot of people, honestly, we got to be practical here. For people who are just discovering they're an empath, usually the first steps are, dear God, how do I figure out boundaries and manage my energy? That's usually like, I've been codependent, I've been feeling everybody else's stuff, I don't know how to say no. So you got to start with the practical stuff first and get that foundation in place. And so I
Mm-hmm.
understand it's not always going to be, hey, I'm an empath. Ooh, let me just jump out into this big cosmic perspective. Sometimes
Yes.
that's just too big of a leap. You got to kind of take care of your own house a little bit first.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Any last minute things that you might want to share?
Just, thank you for this opportunity. And, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Whether you buy the book or the cards, it doesn't matter. But if you have a question, if you feel alone, if you just want to, be part of a community, I have an empath Facebook group. I just want any of you out there that feel like you're alone, that you're an anomaly, that you're crazy, that there's nobody else like you. I assure you that you are not alone. You are not crazy.
Mm, awesome. That's beautiful. It's a good place to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and this has been great. I'm sure the listeners are going to be really happy with what they've heard. Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you, Diana.
And listeners, thanks so much for coming out today and watching and listening and experiencing these beautiful cards. I actually have been a part of Stephanie's Facebook group for empaths, and she's right. It's great, and it is a community. So I would encourage that as well. By coming out today, you know what I always say, by coming out today, you're taking just even just a little step toward more awareness for yourself. Whatever you hear and whatever you bring back in is yours to do with, however you choose. So use it wisely and enjoy it. And thank you so much for coming. See you next time. If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.